Hey, welcome to the Explainer. So today we're jumping into something really critical, a piece of medical knowledge that honestly could save a life. We're going to treat this like a medical mystery, using the clues to find the one single correct answer. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so picture this. You're the first responder on the scene. You've got a patient, they're awake, they've got a pulse, but their core body temp is 92.8 degrees Fahrenheit. What do you do? This is the central question, the whole mystery we're going to solve today.
So, how do we figure this out? Well, we can't just wing it, right? We need a system. We've got to understand the clues the body is giving us, and that means we have to break this problem down piece by piece.
And here's the thing. The biggest clue is knowing that hypothermia isn't just one thing. It's not an on or off switch. It's more like a story with 3 different chapters. And figuring out which chapter or stage our patient is in, well, that is the absolute key to picking the right tool for the job. Okay, so this right here, this is basically our cheat sheet, our mental math for this whole problem. It lays everything out. The 3 stages, mild, moderate, and severe, each with its own temperature range and its own specific treatment plan. This framework is going to be our guide through this whole thing. All right, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty, the numbers. Where does the body's fight against the cold officially begin? What's that first all-important number that you absolutely have to remember? Here it is, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, or 35 Celsius. The second a person's core temperature drops below this number, they are officially in mild hypothermia. Now, the body's fighting back, usually with some pretty intense shivering, but it's losing the battle against the cold. Okay, so then we get to our next big number, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. If you drop below this, things just got a lot more serious. This is often the point where the body's best defense, that shivering, starts to get weak or just stops completely. The body can't make enough heat on its own anymore, which means our treatment has to get more aggressive. And then there's this number. This is the real danger zone, a serious line in the sand. Below 82 degrees Fahrenheit, you're in severe hypothermia. At these incredibly low temps, the heart muscle itself becomes super unstable and irritable. This is a life-or-death emergency that 100% requires advanced care in a hospital. Right, so now we've got our stages mapped out by temperature, but what do we actually do? We need to know about the tools in our toolkit, and they basically fall into 2 big categories, passive and active rewarming, and you have got to know the difference. And this slide just lays it out perfectly, right? Passive rewarming is all about creating the perfect conditions for the body to warm itself up. You get rid of the cold, you insulate it, and you let it do its job. Active rewarming, that's when we step in and apply heat to the patient. We're literally adding heat back into the system. So let's break down passive rewarming. It seems simple, but man, every single step is crucial. First, get those wet clothes off. Water just sucks heat away from the body like you wouldn't believe. Then, dry the patient off completely. And finally, wrap them up in warm, dry blankets. You're just helping the body do what it's trying to do anyway. This is our go-to for mild cases. But what if the body just can't do it on its own anymore? That's when we have to level up to active external rewarming. Now we're talking about bringing in devices, things like heating blankets or forced hot air systems to pump heat directly onto the patient's skin and bring that core temp back up. And you might be wondering, does this stuff actually work? Oh yeah. These commercial warming devices can raise a patient's temperature by as much as 4.3 degrees Fahrenheit an hour. That is way faster and way more effective than just blankets when the body's own furnace has sputtered out. Now, for the really severe cases, we're talking about a whole different ballgame, active internal rewarming. These are serious invasive techniques you're only going to see in a hospital. The whole point is to warm the body's core, the heart and lungs, from the inside out. Why? Because if you warm the arms and legs too fast, all that cold blood can rush back to the fragile heart and cause it to stop. This is specialized, expert-level stuff. Okay, we've got the stages, we've got the magic numbers, and we know the treatments. We have all the pieces of the puzzle. It's time to go back to our patient and solve this thing. So let's look at this again. Our patient, 92.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that we know all this, what's the very first thing we should be asking ourselves? It all comes down to one question. Where does 92.8 fall on our chart? Well, it's below 95, for sure, but it's still above the 90-degree line for moderate. So, boom, right there. It falls squarely, without a doubt, in the mild hypothermia zone. And just to be sure, what does the official guidance say? Yep, this quote nails it. For patients in that 90 to 95 degree range, the treatment should be passive rewarming.
So there it is. The one and only correct answer here is passive rewarming. That's it. Trying to use active warming would actually be too aggressive here. And those other crazy internal methods, not even on the table. We've cracked the case.
Okay, so let's just run through the big takeaways one more time, because this is the stuff you gotta remember. If it's mild, between 90 and 95 degrees, you use passive rewarming. If it's moderate, between 82 and 90, you have to use active external rewarming. And if it's severe, below 82 degrees, that's a hospital emergency needing active internal rewarming. The bottom line couldn't be simpler. Know the numbers and you'll know the treatment.
So we've totally cracked the case of what to do when you have that temperature reading. But that makes you think, doesn't it? It brings up an even bigger question for out in the real world. Could you spot the early signs of hypothermia in someone before you even reach for a thermometer? Now you know the protocol, but spotting the problem in the first place, that's the real first step.